Everyone, I would like to take the privilege to invite our CXO panel members, starting with Shailesh Mishra. He's the Chief Advisor at Microsoft for Development Advisor. He brings over 22 years of experience across Microsoft, AWS, Google, Oracle, and IBM. At Microsoft, he leads strategic AI, data, and cloud transformation initiatives for enterprise customers across Asia. He specializes in translating strategy into production-ready, scalable solutions, particularly regulated in industries like BFSI and healthcare. Known for his execution-first mindset and passion for mentoring leaders at the intersection of technology and business. Let's welcome Shailesh Mishra, please. Rajdeep leads global product, platform, and AI-driven innovation at Dr. Reddy's across consumer health and enterprise ecosystem. With 2 decades of experience, he has embedded AI, GenAI, and agentic AI into our consumer solutions while building new digital ventures from the ground up. Prior to Dr. Reddy's, he built and scaled digital and IoT practices at Tech Mahindra and L&T. He is known for blending startup speed execution with enterprise scale governance. Let's welcome Rajdeep Ghosh, pro healthcare access and building future-ready organizations. Let's welcome Sriram Iyer. Let me introduce Shashank Sahni. Shashank leads global ad solutions at Google, driving a commercial and operation strategy for one of the world's largest digital advertising systems. With Shashank Sahni, responsible at Oracle, rising from principal product manager to senior director. And before that, he served as architect at Sun Microsystems. He holds, let's welcome SaiSatish.
All right, so here is what I thought I'll do. And by the way, the conference, you guys know what the conference is called, AI for Product Leaders. So let's play a bingo game. Every time you hear the word AI, right, make a count of it, which I'm sure some of you play in your corporate meetings, right? Anytime a buzzword comes in, there is a person who keeps a score of it. And I'm predicting we'll cross 1,000 easily today, right? But that is the theme, so we should use that in every context, but use it in the right way that it makes sense. And of course, the theme for this or the topic for this is also very broad. I think Sandeep would explain what this topic is, but I want to bring in a lot more focus and specificity to that topic and a structure to that, right? So most of you probably have realized already that product leadership today is not about following a stable playbook like before, right? With AI, with new business models, new customer experiences, new expectations, that playbook is already old, right? So this is now about how to make big bets in the face of uncertainty, right? AI, the technology is progressing, but there is a lot of uncertainty around actual adoption in the enterprises, right? So that's exactly what we are going to explore in this discussion. I have with me 4 superbly qualified panelists here, and thank you all for taking time and coming here. So what I have requested each of them, by the way, each of them are fully capable of talking on this topic on their own, right, completely. But I've asked each of them to take a very specific perspective and a lens so that they bring the real scenarios and the challenges that they face in their organization and how they have dealt with it or dealing with it, right? So if you've noticed, we have a very diverse set of panelists here. One come from AI platform strategy and large product bets, so Shailesh. From Microsoft, he's a chief dev advisor for developer platforms and ecosystem. And Sriram comes from the perspective and the lens of how traditional organizations or businesses are trying to leverage AI to evolve a lot more into product-led businesses, right? So that's a perspective that Sriram would bring. And Shashank would bring in most of you would know this, monetization platforms and customer acquisition platforms. If you have ever in your life tried to get a customer, you wouldn't have missed Google Ads, right? So he leads that globally from here, so he will bring that perspective. And Rajdeep here comes from a highly regulated industry. So I asked him to bring in, how do you now do AI product building when risk, governance, and trust is more important, right? Especially for that kind of business, and real world outcomes, right? Delivering real world outcomes in the area of health and lifestyle and life sciences, right? So that's the perspective that each of them will bring. Now, this is not a monologue. We will try to have a conversation, but what is more important is you please have your questions, right? So that at an appropriate time we will, you ask the question and we'll see how to bring out those insights. Now, I've also structured this particular topic into 3 areas, right? Just to break it down for you, otherwise this is a very broad topic and anything can go in under that. The first theme of the conversation is about deciding at the edge of AI, right? Now, what does that mean? What essentially that we will focus on is what kind of bets or big decisions are being made when AI is moving so rapidly, but there is no clarity yet. I think every leader that I've spoken to, and I speak to a lot of people every month as part of my job, 61 people I had conversations in the last 2 months, right? Everybody is investing in making progress, but there is still a lack of clarity around where it actually impacts the business, and what kind of experiments do we need to do, what kind of investments do we need to do, right? So that's the first theme in that. The second theme is essentially the placing big bets in the AI first world. Remember, these are all leaders, right? And we are not talking about how do we improve the bottom line for this quarter or next quarter. Each of them are looking into second horizon, third horizon, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, make the big bets, right? And in that context, I would ask them to share some specific examples that they may have gone through in their organization, especially a lot of redesign happening in the companies, right? Many of you are familiar with, there is a redesign of the organization happening, reworking of the roles and responsibilities that is happening, right? So I thought we'll have those perspectives. And the last theme, the third one, is the next product leader, right? Where if AI is changing how products are built, how they are scaled, how we are creating new experiences that we did not or could not create before, how is product leadership itself changing? Right? So what matters now is another important thing. Hopefully, that is a lot more relevant to every one of you. Just a quick show of hands. How many of you are here are current product managers in product role? I'm not talking about the title of a product manager. At least you believe you're a product manager. That's enough. Right? Because titles are very creative in India. Okay, please raise that for all of, okay, super. And how many of you are aspiring into product role? Any aspiring product managers here? Okay, good. Now, I don't know why the rest of you are here. I'm sure the lunch is good, right? But hopefully you will take away a few things from this conversation. Yeah. So I'd like to start with the first important, I don't know which mic to use. Is this working? Yeah, this seems to be working. So I'll start with Shailesh, you. Can you guys hear? Yeah, okay. Now, how do you actually design? Can you share a moment where you had to come up with some capability in your platforms that included AI and had to push that through even though the ecosystem is not ready for it? Right? Because you work with a very large ecosystem of developers, partners, integrations, and all of that, right? So it would be great if you can share a moment.
I think this is the great perspective to understand why there is a lot of ambiguity at this moment in the AI world. But before I start, I just wanted to make sure that, in addition to aspiring product leaders, do we also have developers or aspiring developers in this community? I just want to make sure that my answer aligned with this.
Wrong conference.
No, sometimes,
No,
when
just
you talked
kidding.
about
Yeah.
when you talk about aspiring product
Yeah.
manager or
Where are they
leaders, you
coming?
might be having the aspiring developers as
Yeah.
well, because I come from that background, and the question is like, platform is ready, but the community or the ecosystem is not ready. This is not the first time happening. This has been happened earlier as well, but a little bit of scene is different today in the current era. I think if you recall 10 years before, when cloud technology came, and a lot of people have started modernizing their app from, let's say, monolith to microservices. That time also the platform was ready, but ecosystem was not ready. People were not ready for that mindset, right? Why should I break the monolith into microservices? What is the advantage out of it? But what was the advantage at that moment? We had a lot of time to synthesize our thoughts, to prepare for it, to properly plan for it. Because I myself was engaged in one of the very biggest project in Amazon, where Amazon was trying to migrate all of its tech stack from the local data center to AWS. Now, today the time is, and what exactly the main challenge is, we don't have time because AI moves so fast, right? You ask today something, whatever you were synthesizing 10 years before in a month, it produces just in a minute, is what the challenge is. So I would say, and let me share my experience from, perspective from my experience, because today I am at Microsoft, but earlier I have worked with AWS and Google, both hyperscaler, and I'm bringing the experience from all three, so please fasten your belt to, grasp that experience. What I have observed in my experience, being a founding member of AI adoption right from those hyperscaler now with the Microsoft, is tooling is not a problem. Technology is not a problem. The problem is, the main issue comes from the operating model. And when I say operating model, it is not going to any individual specifically, it is overall how the organization is structured. And slowly it goes to the person like CEOs who has to actually design the organization in such a way that they should learn fast. And before learning, they should fail fast. And that's how you are learning.
Yeah, great. I think that's exactly what I wanted to pick Sriram's mind on, which is, Sriram, you are focused on growth and efficiency at the same time, right? And AI promises both. So was there a moment for you where you had to rethink or look at how the organization is structured right now and make any changes or recommend any changes to optimize that for the AI operating model, right? So for a lot of product companies have been operating under what is called as a product operating model, right? And for product companies, that is itself is shifting. But from the executive level, if you look at it, was there any, how work gets done needs to be relooked at?
Oh, no, sure. So morning guys, great to be here along with my distinguished panelists here. So Apollo Health and Lifestyle is a subsidiary of Apollo Hospitals. It is one of the largest hospital groups in India, and we run one of the largest retail healthcare platforms. So diagnostics, clinic, sugar, dental, cradle, fertility, there are different formats that we have. And I think there are a lot of use cases, but I can talk about one or two which can talk about this. Historically, what was diagnostics? When you go and give a blood test, all of you will get results. And if you go to maybe our parents and even just pre-COVID, what was really happening, folks used to get a blood test and that used to be the end. But today that's the start. Because today healthcare is not about one time or episodic, it is about building continuum of care. So we have a lot of data. And in healthcare, I think the data has to be used prudently and for the right patient outcomes. So we can't jam anyone's, but at the same time, we can't be intrusive with the patients, but we also have to give them with the right triggers at the right time. So today we have patented our AI models. There are predictive scores. So conventional health checkups are preventive, now they're moving to predictive. So there are a lot of AI models that we have developed, like in our flagship Pro Health checkup, which you should guys get it done for yourself, your parents, grandparents, and definitely everybody above 30 needs an annual checkup. You have patented score on CVD, AI in cardiovascular disease. So with a fair bit of estimation, we can say that does this individual have any risk of any such event in the future? Now is it 100%? No, but this language and this ML has been built over time. Like this, there are a lot of use cases that have been built. I'm just talking about one. Also have something called as clinician copilot, which we have worked with Microsoft to build. It is not to replace a doctor, but to help a doctor. If we are present across 5,000 such locations, how should we have standardized way of care? Because we have GPs who are past, who are just 2 years old, working in a taluka headquarter, to some of the best doctors working in Hyderabad or in Bangalore. So how do we ensure consistency and standardization of care? But coming back to the first point, let's say if I get a data and say, okay, this cohort of this patient is at risk, then what next step? The next step is to seamlessly hand it to the next doctor or the next surgical thing that the patient needs. And today we all know incidence of NCDs and all that is very high. I won't get into that, but India is a non-communicable disease capital, right, of too many diseases. So how do we build this continuum of care? Now what is required for that? So historically we are only doing a blood test, job ends there. Now the nursing staff, the doctors, I may have gone to internal medicine doctor, but I need to see a nephrologist. I may have gone to see a GP, but I need to go to a cardiologist. So how do I build those patient journeys? And for that we have built a platform. So what had to change? The nursing team had to understand that when the patient comes in, the job starts there. It doesn't end, point one. Point number two, how do I maintain patient health records? And how do those health records talk consistently with our system over a period of time? I may visit twice in a month, twice in a year, or thrice in a year to a clinic or doctor. How do I have all data? And you may have 3 members registered in a number. How do I know it's about your father or about your spouse or versus you? And how do we use that patient health record? How do we run it in a database? How do we capture digital medical records so every time a patient comes in? And then use this score to really nudge and tell a patient what can we really, how can we handhold you? For that in the back end, the customer operations has to completely change, or the service support. Our telemedicine has to change, right? If there is a clear case, you know, of a warning, then we have to immediately act. There have been cases where somebody said, hey, listen, why have you come here? No, I said, I've come here because I wanted to get health checkup done for my spouse. Oh, great. When did you last do it for yourself? He said, I've never done it. And he went for a health checkup and there was a blockage with the ECG showed. There's a blockage in the artery and the person had to go for an instant angiogram and a stenting. So what does all this lead to? This all leads that there is enough evidence available. And for us, it is about using these evidences, using those cohorts. In the back end, you have nursing team, clinical team, you have the customer support team, and you have the operations team at the center. All of these 4 have got repurposed to the fact that continuum of care and patient outcome is the only thing that we all live for. And AI comes in, it can't replace. That's very clear in healthcare, right? AI can't come and replace doctors. AI can be enabler. This data that throws is of very high value, and with a fair bit of accuracy now, we do millions of, we have just published a Health of the Nation report. You guys can go and Google it. It really talks about, 1 out of 3 have are diabetic or pre-diabetic. So there is, and 1 out of 4 have a cardiovascular, there is COPD, there is thyroid among women, there are vitamin D deficiency, especially among women. All of these are serious problems we all have today.
Sorry, there are 3 things that you mentioned. One is on how are you looking at this from a customer experience innovation standpoint. The second one is the operational aspects of it. And obviously, if these 2 work, the growth happens. Right? So these are the 3. So you also said that AI is not going to replace the doctors and the nurses, which is, I think, fairly easier to understand. But when it comes to operations part, the motivation to bring in this into the organization, to bring in AI to speed up things, to bring in efficiency, will also, I'm assuming, trigger a certain change management aspects of it, right? So was there any situation where you had to tell everyone that we are going to do things differently and you need to do different things?
So a lot of times when you guys give a blood test, you guys would have seen a tube. That tube comes in, and historically most of these tubes get into a machine, and there are different analyzers by a lot of companies, and pathologists to sit and look at each and every result themselves. Now we have got state-of-the-art labs, right? One in Hyderabad and the one in Chennai is, I think, 5th largest in Asia. What we have done is auto-validation of a lot of routine tests. So the AI, when the machine hits the system and the regular score comes out, most of the routine tests get auto-validated without any doctor looking at each and every results and signing off the results. Now the first question he'll ask is, oh, can I believe that machine? Of course you can, because there are quality control checks built in. So how does this help? Now imagine that somebody is in a hospital, he could be at an OP preventive, he could be at an IP, he could be at an ICU, he could be an emergency. Can I push the report 60 minutes earlier?
Got it.
I think it's not because quick commerce has come and we are all we want everything in 30 minutes. But even the entire thing is, so here what was the role for us? The role was all the pathologists, typically the doctors who run these labs, they had to first accept that, oh yes, this machine with this AI rule set in is giving the same result that I was doing manually. And now we can do it faster. And using multiple body reference ranges, right, from a heart, sugar, kidney, organ, it can also give you a next best action. I think that is where the doctors came on board. They have to, of course, sign off on the queries. But then they let it go, and I think now, and so we could focus on the doctors to do a far more work on talking to patients, going and talking outside, and the need for it rather than doing it themselves. At least for the most of these routine tests, which can be, as I said, 70% of them are now completely auto-validated through AI.
I think there is an equivalent of that in every type of industry, right? So pharmaceutical is going through that, manufacturing, automotive, everything. Now, before this started, Chirashree asked one question to all of you, and I want to bring that in as well. I'm sure you have seen or would like to hear from you the resistance to change. Have you seen in AI adoption inside the organization, not just for bringing in new customer experiences, new products? I'm sure there's a huge push for that part of it. But when there is push for that part of it, internally people have to start, either accepting that things that we are going to do is very different. So have you seen cultural resistance? Have you seen fear of change? I think, these are things that are, in my view and a lot of people's view, are slowing down the adoption of AI inside the organization.
A great question. Firstly, good to be here, and it's nice to be in a group of aspiring and current product managers. Favorite part of my world is to work with product teams, so good to be here. I'll maybe give you 2 or 3 perspectives.
Yeah.
I think one is, somebody very wisely said, I think many years ago, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. I think that holds true even today.
Even more so, I
think
suppose.
somebody said that 60, 70 years ago. And I think at core of any organization transformation is culture and how you think about it. So maybe we'll make it more specific to what you just called out. And interestingly, or maybe not for many of you, although I'm coming from the world's probably one of the most advanced tech companies called Google, you'll be surprised how difficult it can be even to make change there happen, right? Because to the previous question that Sriram was talking about, we also have a similar balancing act to play, which is to maximize growth and maximize efficiency. And when you're looking to maximize growth and efficiency, your team has to come along the journey on that, right? And typically what you find is when you're trying to, we saw that even with foundational automation efforts, forget about even AI. Even in foundational automation, we found people initially resisting to it. But what we realized over a period of time is you will have to be able to answer 2 questions. One is the why, and 2 is the so what. If you're able to articulate the why very clearly to a team as to why this makes sense and be able to show the so what to them, usually you see people start coming up the journey faster. That's number 1. I think number 2 is, and that's more for leaders in this room and people like us, are you role modeling it yourself? Because teams follow where they see leaders. If leaders lead the way, teams follow. So it's a large part of that is just core leadership. And I think the third component of it is, what is the incentive? And what I mean by that is, what is the augmentation happening? So what we are seeing right now, for example, is, are you rewarding application or are you rewarding augmentation? If you're rewarding application, then you're not doing a good job. Because the expectation is everyone should apply AI, isn't it? There shouldn't be a conversation anymore. We have to become AI native. I think it's not a point anymore is whether you should or you shouldn't. That stage is past. But what are you doing with it? And are you rewarding that augmentation? So I think these three, I
So
suppose,
you're
pivots
saying
are-
setting up incentive structures, that doesn't have to be financial incentive structures, to make people realize that augmentation is the way to go, and hence each one of you should start thinking not in application,
Yeah.
but augmenting yourself and the organization.
So just to make it real for you, maybe I can just give you one example. A large part of what my teams do, for example, is we help our products work for advertisers, right? Because our products, what you see as a Google interface, which I always say Google is the most simplest design on the web, but what goes behind it is a very complex machinery. Right? And so when advertisers work with us on our Google platform, the products for them can be very complex. So a large part of what my team does is to make that work for the advertiser. And by doing that, we help the advertiser then invest more in our platform and so on. That means when we go to the advertiser, we need to be able to go with strong product insights, market insights, data, and so on. A large part of that is now automated or AI-led. So what remains is that augmentation of human. The judgment that you bring to the conversation, the understanding of the customer.
Was that for the, are you referring to the your customers, advertisers?
Yes, for the advertiser. But if I'm a person who's engaging, if I'm taking care of all of this, this machine line before, or other assembly line, what am I bringing to the advertiser? And am I rewarding that? Because if I'm able to reward them, then people will say, okay, I'm applying my human judgment and I'm being rewarded for that. That is far more inspiring than saying, hey, have you used 5 AI
But
tools?
it's a huge shift for even your customers, huge shift mindset, because most people are used to those kind of tools that you've been providing or products that people have been using. And suddenly now you say that 70% of that is taken care of by your platform. And now all you need to do is interact with that platform with your critical thinking. And that's a big shift.
I think the incentives have to be aligned across the stakeholders. The incentives can't be just for Google, right? The incentives has to be for Google, for our employees, for our customers, and the ecosystem, and you got to align that.
Got it. Rajdeep, you are run in a regulated environment, right? So was there an AI initiative that you looked at it and said, before we come up with the product, we need to redesign the workflow, redesign the team, redesign any part of the organization?
No, interesting. And anyway, first of all, good morning. Hope some of our insights are useful to you in addition to great lunch and tea. So great to be within a community which is of product managers, aspiring, current, and as well as engineering as well few. And I think what we are going to discuss or I'm going to share is going to be relevant for everyone, right? Now, I think coming to this question. I'll take an example so it's easy for you to relate, right? So, a very, very, currently a trend is going on. Many people would have heard about the word Ozempic, right? Everyone see. No one till date knew about any pharma brand. Now everyone needs an Ozempic.
They even go ahead and say semaglutide.
Not
even Ozempic anymore.
So that makes my life simpler.
I know.
So we actually launched the first generic version of semaglutide in India, right? And now we are launching in Canada and other countries as well. So when launching semaglutide, we also believe that the outcome from that therapy is just not the pill, because as you start taking semaglutide, there are also going to be some side effects. You will have nausea, you will have some gastric issues, you will also in extreme cases maybe some amount of for long, when you use it for long, there are other side effects as well. I don't want to disclose too much here, but then
you don't want to scare them.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're going for prescription right now.
But then what it means is when we are building that, when we are launching that semaglutide, which is a pill product, we were also conceptualizing a support program around it, right? So basically a digital product. We wanted to give that product also to the consumers and our patients, and they should be able to get support in terms of any questions, there are even dose tracking, there are few do's and don'ts, all of that. Now, as part of that, interestingly, we thought we also will build SIA. So SIA is a semaglutide intelligent assistant, which is a LLM based assistant, which we have launched, by the way. When we are building it, the focus, and that's, I think everyone will go through the same journey. The focus was what? The focus was, which platform should we use? Which model should we use? We were evaluating Gemini, we were evaluating, the Anthropic model, the Cloud Opus, and Sonnet, and everything, right? So entire focus we spent on that, and we started on the journey. But then somewhere in the between, we realized when we started, the product started taking shape, and we got into a phase which is validation and so on. We started realizing the world is very different. The SDLC of earlier was, the product manager goes and, from the finds out the unmet needs of the users, converts them into a requirement specification. Product owner creates stories, user stories. They create user stories, business stories, and then product owner in large organization also create, tech stories. And then engineering team takes it up from there, validation test, right? But that's not going to be the journey which actually will be able to do justice with this kind of product. Because what started happening is, on the RAG, when we started putting in our knowledge base, eventually every outcome, every test case is now not a fixed test case. Every time when we ask a question, SIA is supposed to answer it in a way which is accurate, safe, and compliant.
Yeah.
And who can test it? The validation guy can't test it because there is no specific test case. Who tests this now? The product manager have to test it. Because
so the traditional demarcation of roles is now being challenged.
Absolutely, and this is just, I'm talking about validation, but this also happens in now guardrails. Now who defines those guardrails? Engineering cannot define the guardrails because it's very domain centric.
Put it on the head of product manager.
It's product manager. So I think what we realized is, before the product was shaped, the first product which we had to build in this organization was the org chart. And where the roles and responsibilities are changing, has changed. In my team today, the product managers are doing, activities which never ever even they thought that they have to do.
That's a fantastic example.
Now this is again an example I'm saying. I think for us, we have to take a step back, go back. Org chart was our first product. And then we again resumed that product, and we have launched it.
Awesome. Super. Any questions from any of you? Yes, please. And you will have to point to one of them to ask that question. You should get a mic. Yes.
Hey, this is Prasanna Ganduri. I'm a vice president from Deloitte. Lead a lot of products from our portfolio. So my question to the panel is, how do you envision the future workforce be like? Because the lines are blurring between roles of software development, and so is the generation that's currently at schools. Doesn't really always go back to a ChatGPT or AI mechanism to have a taste about something, right? For now, the existing generation which is currently working as engineers, at least have gone through a certain journey to be able to, segregate between what is right and what's not, or how to eventually build something bottoms up, right? That's with AI, it's going to get better. However, there is a set of generation which is coming right from college. If you throw them a problem, they'll straight away go to AI, and then it's going whatever it gives. So they're losing that taste of what needs to be built and how it needs to be built, which is purely dependent by AI. Now, how do you envision how AI is going to transform the future of work?
I think this is a question that's on many people, especially I keep telling people that I don't care about your careers anymore or my career. We care about our kids' careers. We don't know what is going on there. But I will pick, maybe Shailesh, you could address that. The question that you asked essentially is whether it is engineering, whether it is design, whether it is product management, whether it's product marketing, or any of these are crafts, right? People have built these crafts over a number of years, and it took a lot of skill building in that, practice in that, failures and all of that. What you're saying is some of that is getting appended because most of the people, the generation that is going to come into the workforce now, they necessarily don't have to come with that mindset of I'm going to build this craft, right? My view, very simple view, is they're going to build a different craft, not this one, right? But I would like to.
Yeah, let me add to that. I think very valid point. As AI is changing and as AI is advancing, What is most important at this moment is not execution, because AI can do execution in seconds and minutes. What is most expensive at this moment, and it will remain the core factor in anybody career, is the ability of judgment.
Yeah.
You can build 10 products in a single day today with AI, but out of that 10, which product is going to be hitting your customer most is where you need to take the judgment, and that's where AI cannot replace you. And the two main factors which AI cannot replace the human is the experience that you come from and the intuition that you have the moment you take the judgment for product feature or the user stories that you are selecting.
I think
AI can generate.
the point is people with no experience now, right? So people who are coming into the, so I'll add two more things to what you just said, especially relevant for product managers. Number one is judgment, number two is taste, and number three is agency building. Unfortunately, none of this is taught in any education institution in the country, right? Taste, judgment, and agency building. That's why I said there are other crafts that people need to build now, as opposed to what execution is democratized and even accelerated. Great question, thank you. One more, we'll take one, and hopefully we'll have for the next, after the next point. We're not done with the discussion yet. Yeah, yes, good, yes, go ahead. Your name, please. Can we have a microphone here? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Bunima. I'm working with Adobe. And my question is like maybe it is either for Shashank or from Shailesh. I'm from a technology person. What problems do you think AI can generally better solve rather than the traditional software? Like, how do you choose where to leverage AI or where not to leverage AI? Because AI
awesome question. That's exactly what we're going to talk about. So maybe we'll park this question and come back. Yeah? That's the next question, by the way. That's the topic of that.
Okay, maybe
right?
I read your
I'm glad you are following this. Right? Super. So we'll come back to you guys. Now, the second part, placing the big bets, right? So I think that clear, when everything looks like an opportunity with AI, what do you focus on? What do you say no to? Right? I think this is because a lot of hype, a lot of enthusiasm, irrational exuberance, I would call it, happening in many organizations about everything is an AI opportunity, and so let's jump in. So Sriram, just to start with you, right? I think, you talked about customer-led innovation, experiences, change that you want to bring in with AI. I'm sure you are saying no to 10 other things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there are multiple, at least there are 2 or 3 departments or I would say priorities where AI can definitely help. One is of course the patient-centric customer experience. Second is how can it improve our internal operations efficiency. And third could be to look at new business models. And I think there's no particular set of order, but I think first we need to set our house in order. So we need to first focus on back-end operations, everything, all that we can do to serve our patients better. What does that serve mean? Either do it faster, do it better, do it smarter.
I want to emphasize on that so that people get this. I think he made a statement. First emphasize on the back-end operations to make it ready before you go to the customer. That's I'm sure what you are seeing in many companies as well. So,
and I think that's very important because, like we get a lot of calls. So one of the biggest use cases is agentic AI. So we obviously deployed that. So we now know there are faster repeats, there's no waiting time. We exactly know this was a repeat customer, what he called for. But now it's not only the demographic analytics, but you also have the behavioral analytics on top of it and you exactly know why they're calling for. To talk to Rajdeep's point, right? I mean, we also have sugar clinics and we see a lot of footfalls. And I believe patients are moving from a unknown to a known unknown. Because it's still not easier, right? I mean, who should take a semaglutide or a tirzepatide and should I go for the variants or should I go for Wegovy or whichever ones it is. So they obviously need hand-holding. So I'm just saying that, so we come in here. That's where the personal influence comes in. And I think we get a lot of calls in a call center for this. So how do you manage? So those can't be automated, let's be clear. Those you need somebody to talk to. You need a doctor to talk to the patient. But there are so many repetitive other calls that comes right from reports, doctor appointments, repeat tasks, and the agentic AI can do it far better in different LLM models. It can talk, you can know the peak time. So much so I know that after Diwali, people are going to call me for a blood test. All right, so no, people eat sweets and then say, hey, listen, I want to test my sugar. So it happens. So AI can do a lot of that thing in a much faster, quicker way. So that is one is operation. Second, as I said, we also have a lot of data, as I said. Now, how do we use that data for the right outcome? So we have a Microsoft product called Fabric. We have a lot of other products which are, we have a data lake that sits. How do we really use that data to tell a customer that what more we could offer him or her? And I think that's also important. And I think those are the areas that we're really focusing a lot more on. And from the experience standpoint, there is a lot more to be done, right? People don't like waiting. I think we see that when people come on Saturdays, a lot of corporate crowds also come. So what we have also now focused on to say is that we're using AI, we do a prediction. Which pin code, what's the data, where can I go home directly, take the blood? Can I tell you exactly to only come at 10:30 so that you can get out by 11:30? So I think that's an experience part of it, right? There is service delivery is where we are in, right? If you have...
I think that's a good example of your question of where from outside software may not be visible, right? From Microsoft and Google, we talk about software, you understand it, we see it. But this is the areas where you see the real world outcomes, but the software is driving internally, right? So I think you should read that fantastic article, Software Eats the World, by Mark
Absolutely.
Andreessen.
See, one of the things is that today our phlebos, a lot of you have taken blood, they start at 5:36 in the morning, and we are doubling our phlebo strength every second year. So how do I predict that sitting in this, let's say this pin code here,
that phlebo cannot be replaced with AI?
It can't be. You need somebody to go and take the blood out, right? So no, AI can't do that. But building my supply inventory, ensuring that my service delivery is very good, ensuring that my patient who comes in effortlessly moves from one chamber to another. So we talk about token management, but then if I know that if somebody is coming and he had some critical condition, then I will not tell him to go and do his ECG and all that first. I'll first say that prioritize this customer, let him go and first meet the doctor. So all of those, when you put a history of the patient, the token management and it is built in such a way that it will tell you, hey, go there first. And for the other person who's healthy, he may follow a different pattern. So basically, all I'm saying is on service delivery, operations, and of course, call center. So those are some of the areas we definitely do. New business models, there are a lot of business models actually, but I think we want to tread carefully. Because one point I want to lead here with product team is that, and of course I'm sitting with a lot of tech folks here, right? And we are a transforming organization. The best job of product manager, as per me, from wherever organizations I've worked for, is to really solve the problem. If we have hit the nail that what am I solving for, and that is the most difficult actually. If we answer it right, I think half the job is done. Then the customer facing teams, the operations team sits with the product guy to make the journeys, the workflows, and then obviously the engineering team takes it over. But the biggest problem I feel is 9 out of 10 times we don't know what we are solving for.
That is not defined well.
It's not defined well. And who does it well? For me, the customer, if there's a center in Kondapur and that guy gets 250 patients a day, we should ask the nursing head, is this going to solve? What is it going to solve? And we should not unnecessarily say AI will solve. For a lot of things, AI is not required. Let's be honest.
Get closer to the customer.
Get closer to customer, take the feedback, and talk to your people who are the most customer facing. They are the ones who will tell you. And half the times we ask this, what are we solving for? Is that right? And we break our heads. And once that is right, or what opportunity are we knocking at? It's not about problems alone. We may try and say, okay, listen, there are so many calls that come. We are able to solve them, but can I then go and pitch them something? Okay, great point. That's the new business model. Okay, so but what is that going to lead us to? Should I go and tell an acute customer? Should I go and tell him, or should I wait to solve him? Is a patient ready to wait for 3 minutes on the call? So a lot of questions to be answered. But one of these two, once if it is done well, I think automatically others take shape.
Excellent. So Shashank, in your world, how do you optimize or decide what to optimize for? Is it for advertisers or user experience or revenue growth? I'm sure it's a money-making machine inside Google, and there is constant focus on how do we increase that part of it, but at the same time, the new experiences. So these are longer-term bets.
You're almost calling out my KPIs for the year. Look, I'll be honest, it is a tension, right? Like it's not an easy problem, right? And I don't want to kind of oversimplify and say that AI is this magic wand that will solve for everything. It doesn't work like that in real life. And I think Sriram articulated it very well there, that in our world, right, so I always say this, we have this B2C product monetized by a B2B business. And so by definition, there is always going to be a little bit of a tension in the system. For example, all of you as users of Google obviously care deeply about privacy and you get the right content at the right time and so on and so forth. At the same time, when you look at advertisers who optimize this usage, also need to make sure that their brand is correctly monetized, that it's not diluted. There are many bad actors out there. How do you make sure that you get that balance right? So so I think and maybe that's part of your question as well. One of the things we definitely care very, very deeply about is user intent. And a lot that we do is to solve for what's the user experience with Google. So if you hear Sundar and others always talk about it, in fact, if you look at Sundar's own goals, etc., it's always about the user first. And then comes how you commercialize it and so on. So we will always optimize for user intent. And then that is one. Having said that, we also want to make sure that our advertisers are working with us in the right way and the right guardrails are applied so that their investments and their monetization with Google is not compromised.
The whole models are changing though, right? So earlier, there used to be a different way of communicating those guardrails, setting those guardrails. But from an advertiser experience point of view.
Look, I think in a lot of ways, what we are finding is with AI, and in fact, that was one of the, maybe our opinion was that, hey, if it is AI, you're an advertiser, you invest in our platform, you don't need to see anything, AI will do everything, it'll give it to you. And we thought advertisers would like that. But actually, that's a black box.
They don't want black box.
So they don't want a black box. Because I think at the end of the day, again to the previous example, if you apply it even in enterprises also require control. Right? They don't want to let go of that control, and rightfully so. Because the fact that you want to just trust an opaque platform.
When things go wrong, you want to be able to point out and say, this is probably why it went wrong.
One is that, and second, we've also learned along the way that we don't understand our advertisers' business as much, obviously, as they understand.
Got it.
And I've always said this, that if you look at 4 of us here, we are probably coming in from the IT world. So we are in the business of IT. Our customers are not in the business of IT. And I think being very humble about that is important.
Awesome. Rajdeep, your regulated area, right? And how do you decide which AI use cases to bet on versus not to touch? Yeah, please. Thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you.
So, I think this had been always a opportunity and as well as a distraction, okay? Because the board will always ask you every quarter, what are we doing in AI? And there is also talks and some smart leader who came in, he is also how many tokens we are
let's ask this question. How many of your managers and your leaders are asking the same question? What are we doing in AI?
So
I would be disappointed if it's less than 100%.
So I think the one thing what I think is working at least for us and to just get through this ambiguity and putting into a frame, and I think it will work for most of us all here. Just put it into a 2x2. Okay, so what we do is we put in a 2x2 metric. The criterias are, one is because we are a pharma, so definitely risk and basically the risk and the complexity. So even if you eliminate risk, complexity still remains applicable for the entire set of industries, right? So risk and complexity is one dimension of a 2x2. Another dimension of the 2x2 is impact or value. Because today people are nice, people are asking how many tokens you are burning. The moment you start scaling up, when you add up your input token plus output token costs, people will say it's not giving any value, shut it down. So if you want to ensure that you build something which stays, put your bets into this 4. Okay. So what it evolves into, number one, if you look at the leftmost down, like basically you look at low value, maybe low risk, right? people say leave it, but I believe that's a good starting point. Because low value, low risk, there is some value, risk is low. That's the good starting point, because that's what will drive your learning cycle, your experimentation. Because the people, whether your product managers, your management, your stakeholders, your product management team, everyone has to go through the learning cycle. You cannot sit at the, you cannot watch an IPL match as a spectator or maybe outside the boundary line and you believe you'll be like Suryavanshi. No, you cannot. So you will have to start there. So the low risk, low value is a good quadrant.
So
Identify.
you're recommending that people start.
Identify those use cases, because you are not going to break anything, right? If it doesn't work, the cost of that failure is also low. So start from there. The second is low value, high risk is a no-go, right? It's a no-brainer, even don't look at it, okay? Just don't look at any of these. And I'll just give an example, maybe another thing is, which is a very, very sweet spot, is obviously high value, low risk. And if you see the entire set of industries across, you will see like why adoption of co-pilots for coding has picked up. Because there is already a developer now, the co-pilot is generating the code, the developers anyway will end up reviewing before they, do a pull request value. They will anyway do the, review and then it goes into production. So it means it's a low risk, but high value, because we are also seeing that we are getting, 30%, 35% productivity improvement with it. So these are examples of, low risk, high value.
Risk versus
and then the final quadrant, which is, I'll also give one example for that, and that's a learning again which I had. See, high risk, high value, because that's the North Star. Because finally organizations will have to.
That's a big bet that you
Big bet, right? There's a long-term big bet. So now I'll give you an example. Now, there's an oncology platform for us, and we are oncology leaders. So what we did was, there's an oncology treatment management platform. Today, we provide it to institutions. So institutions have a care team. They call the patient, or there's an app with the patient, and through the app, the patient can report what the side effect they are facing after the chemo or after the radiation therapy which they just underwent, right? Or if their mental health wise they are doing well, because it's very tough treatment and it breaks you mentally as well, right? So, and food, nutrition, care collaboration, everything is there. But what we saw was, one of the unmet need which came in is lot of these users were senior citizens, above 60, very difficult for them to use, report in the app, right? So we said, now feasibility is there. You can actually build a virtual nurse as an agent, put all kind of guardrails, put all your content on the RAG, and the agent can call the user on their phone and do a check-in, right? A weekly check-in. Now, when we were validating it, we thought like it's a high value, low risk, right? But then eventually it turned out to be high value, high risk, because high risk because, the agent today, and unfortunately today we are now still dealing with LLMs. SLMs are evolving, so with SLMs you will have a higher amount of predictability, but LLMs are evolving every week. There is some additional set of parameters which are getting added.
That's why I think the technology is pacing at a
higher pace,
where we are much behind, both in terms of organization, workflows, value to the customer and all of that. And that's where you're saying this mental model about risk
you need to map all your activities under these 4 buckets. See, I think I'll tell you real-time example, okay? So we asked the calling agent, we said you speak with the patient in a very, very humble tone, because cancer patient hai. So the tone and everything as part of our prompt we defined. Then the patient is, the medication adherence was one of the checks which we wanted to do, whether you are taking your medication. Patient said, I missed 1 dose, I took other 5 for the week, right? The agent said, great, you have achieved 90% adherence. So I think what I'm trying to say is these all will bound to happen. And these are real-time scenarios. Any kind of guardrails and all you define, you will fail, and hence, play your bets carefully. Risk assessment is going to be more important than what it was earlier. So do a proper FMEA, risk assessment, and take your long-term bets slowly. I'm not saying you just leave it, but you take it slowly, park it, work slowly, evolve slowly, and launch, maybe a little point of time.
So I'd like to jump. I know we're running out of time. We're already quite delayed and don't want to keep you guys. I know you have prior appointments. the one that I think is closer to my heart, which is the next product leader. If I were to ask you one question, all of you, right? If you were to give an advice to a product manager today as to what is the one thing that they should be focusing on building and what is the one thing that they should let go? Yes, please.
I think we talked about
Whether it is mindset, whether it is skill set, capability, right? Anything, one thing.
I think initially I talked about evolving operating model in presence of AI. And I think product leaders should think about redefining entire workflow. So when I say workflow, at what point you want human involvement, at what point you need AI involvement, it will get redefined every time the AI will advance in its features. So,
So going back to, I think I'll summarize what you're saying is judgment is still very, very important. But you're saying pay attention to that regularly because things are rapidly changing.
yes.
Right?
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to end my statement is, does human can make mistakes? Yes. So what AI also. So you need to complement to each other. Think about that operating model, and this will not be stagnant after you define one model. It will keep on evolving with the time as AI will advance.
Yeah.
That's
Shashank,
what.
one capability that each one should go today. I'm sorry, I'm being very, very explicit about this, so that when they go home, there's one thing that I need to focus on.
I think you should learn to ask better questions. I feel like, and I think some of this comes from children. Somewhere along the line, are you able to hear me?
We've lost that curiosity, right? Yeah.
No, I was just saying that I think we should learn to ask better questions, because I think with AI, you actually have that headspace to ask better questions. And if you ask me, where I've seen, and by the way, it's not got to do with just product managers. I work with a lot of product managers, and I also work with a lot of sales teams. I also work with a lot of ops teams. That's the interesting thing about my job. And where I've seen it work best is when people ask better questions. Because at the core level, skills, intelligence is getting democratized. The layer on top is only how you ask better questions. I think the best place to learn that is from children. I think over a period of time, we lose the ability to ask better questions. So if you want to rehearse that skill, go and look at the children in your families, and maybe bring that thing back into your world. That's maybe what I will say.
Yeah.
Is to
I think
ask
we
better
built
questions.
machines, and we're building machines that can answer anything, but still the ability to ask the right question matters a lot.
I also,
Yeah.
yeah, how to ask a better question. You want?
So there is a new technique developed recently. I think you might have observed prompt engineering, right? And that's where I think he's coming from, and he's very apt that you should start asking right question.
They're
in the
going to
right
do that
time,
in
right?
the next workshop.
Yes.
So-
So I think what you need to learn is context engineering, which is advance of the prompt
Next
engineering.
level of
that is where his objective will meet.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Also, maybe just one nuance I'll add to that just before I hand it off is all of you in some form or the other work with some form of a customer, right? It could be an internal customer, it could be an external customer. So you always have a customer around you. So always keep that in mind. It doesn't matter which job you're playing, you always have some customer, right? And if you're able to ask the better question, you're able to empathize and work with that customer better. We've seen that time and again, and I've been in commercial roles and ops roles, and whenever we have unlocked value, it has only been when we are able to marry the customer requirement with what we can deliver. And that comes from asking better questions.
I think good product managers know this thing called discovery, right? Discovery is a very qualitative process of understanding your customer, the pain points and the problems that they have, but to inside that, to extract that ability to ask the right set of questions is the most important part. Right? Great one, thank you. Rajdeep.
So, definitely context and all is very, very key. But what I have seen, an interesting shift is happening. And I'll answer this question after setting this context, right? So, interesting shift is the product managers are actually shifting right, means product managers also will have to start learning in terms of building some of these MVPs, the products, the solutions, builders. On the other hand, engineers can shift left. So basically engineers, the boundary, the very, very hard boundary, because I lead both the teams, right? I lead both engineering and the product teams, and what I'm seeing is this is what is changing very rapidly. Engineers who aspire to be product managers, for them also this is the time. So they can actually move very easily if they come up with one change, and that's applicable for both product and engineer. I think from a product view, like how I build that product, how I build the best product, how I build the best feature, to now asking the question how I will build a great ecosystem. And what I mean by ecosystem, it's not about, I'm talking about, not talking about partners and all of that, right? But now, today's world, if you have to make a product successful, right? Building means how part of it is easy, right? The biggest problem is what and why is important, and what and why is not easy to solve, because you will have a set of stakeholders, internal, external, everyone. And what my learning had been that when we launched some of these digital health solutions, the market, traditionally we thought adoption will be 4%, 5% because people don't use health apps much and all. But what we saw was, it was 20-22% when we launched, because everyone wants some kind of a support which is non-existent, and people are now more open to ask these questions to a GPT and Gemini and Google, and hence adoption is high. But then the biggest problem is our internal stakeholders. They don't understand the risk, they don't understand how are the guardrails which we are putting in, so they have more questions. That, no, if what happens if it answers this question wrong, I will be facing a suit of multi-million dollars, right?
I think you're absolutely right. The key message here is, for a long period of time, most of the careers focused on the how part.
Correct.
Right? How do we need to do this? How do we solve this? How do we make it efficient? How do we make it better? Now, a majority of that how, especially in the digital and technology world, is taken over by AI. It can do it better than and faster than and cheaper than humans. So the emphasis is, start asking what problem does it solve, why does that matter? More of that part.
And I think this is going to be the deal breaker, because this is what is very, very important, because you will have to solve a lot of ambiguity. There are technical hallucinations which you will have to take care of. You will have to learn how to make a guardrail good enough, strong enough.
So I'd like to take
context, everything.
A couple of questions, quick ones. Yes, we'll do that. By the way, after that, along with your Irani cup chai, maybe you can come and ask us one-on-one as well. But let's go ahead.
Hi, I'm Aditi, and my question is to Shailesh ji. So what can we as product managers do with using AI to make engineering's life easy? Apart from giving you prototypes, what more can we do so that you don't feel like murdering us?
Oh, that's
So, yeah, very, very great perspective of
product managers say that I'm being asked to do prototypes, I've been asked to do this documentation, I've been asked to do, there's a whole bunch of stuff that came to product management now, but she framed the question saying, how can we make the life of an engineer better? Awesome.
Of course, I think everybody comes from some of their expert background in which they are very good at it, and project managers should know about it. And I'll extend to what Rajat was saying is that, scrap the role guidelines, redefine the role guidelines, right? This is how you need to look at your development project, which you called as SDLC, Software Development Life Cycle. The roles are getting blurred and their activities are merging, shifting left and right, that we were talking about. So you as a project manager, let's say you are a project manager, right? And you have some role guidelines and you don't move outside of the role guideline. Why don't you extend yourself and do an MVP before developer does it, and identify where more complexity, where we need a developer's help more, rather you can do by yourself using the AI help.
Yeah,
I think that is where you need to explore more. Now, you have, with the AI, you can explore and go in other roles and see with the help of AI what you can do and identify the most interesting point in which that role can play more better, you know.
And then ask for the promotion or the hike. That's the path towards that, right? Awesome.
I think we will see this evolution.
Yes. Do you have the mic? Who has a mic? Yes, go ahead. Sorry, we'll get to the mic later.
Shashank, I love the word so what next? So what? So that word, I really love it in this AI journey where it is shifting a lot. So I come from a pharma background, probably it is for you, Rajdeep. Currently, we are more into data and digital, especially the pharma, which are not so advanced as Google or Microsoft. As a user, I love using AI. I love the predictions that the Google says, what I search comes in an Instagram, it gives a recommendation, I love that, everything. But as an associate, when an AI is threatening me, maybe I don't have a job. What if that question, where there is an anxiety in the associates, where they say, maybe I'm going to lose my job. As a user, I love it. But as an associate, do I love it? Maybe not. So how are we going to suppress this anxiety? How are we going to give that confidence to the associate that I'm not replacing you. I'm giving you an assistant, like a co-pilot. As a product owner, I create PPTs, I give presentations, MVPs and everything. So what is your leadership?
Your name?
Kavita.
Kavita. I think it's nothing to do with pharma or non-pharma.
No, I mean
it's
pharma.
Pretty much, no, I'm glad, right? I think it's a very dominant feeling right now. And I have a phrase for what many professionals are going through right now. Functional but fragile. Right? Many of us going through this same situation. And it's a can of worms to open it up right now. Two things I would give you just to take away and probably brainstorm it later. First one, and I brought this up multiple times before. Today, if I take a stone in Bangalore and throw it in HSR layout, it is very likely it will fall among one of them, right? How did that happen? The new roles have evolved because you are to create new value to your customers. That is exactly what is happening right now. So which means we may have to reshape our role, right? And two of my favorite roles that are becoming very popular now is one is GTM engineer. How many of you have heard of this role called GTM engineer? It's very, very popular, right? Lots of hiring happening for GTM engineer, which is basically the objective is to get customers, but you're going to use AI tools to do that, segmentation, targeting, positioning, messaging, and a whole bunch of things. The second interesting role is LLM psychologist. I'm not kidding, right? So the point is that new roles are going to come, the old ones are going to go away, at least from a title's point of view. So which means we have to adapt, number one. Second aspect of it is, this is as I said, you have to figure out from your career perspective, what are the blockers that you have right now? And that's the workshop we will do now.
Yeah, I'll just add on, right? I think this is a very, very common, like every appraisal discussion we just concluded. So there had been this question, same thing is asked to me every time, right? So I think there are two facets of it, right? One is what you expect, what leaders should do. See, it's any disruption, any innovation, there has to be an element of psychological safety. The leaders have to build that psychological safety, which should give an associate an enough runway or time to adopt. If you don't give a chance and opportunity and then you expect them to change or adopt, that's a crime, right? So number one. So that's basically leader's job. Every leader, few of you also are leaders, you also manage your team, so please ensure, try to give your people a runway to learn, adopt and change. On the other hand, on the other side, even for an associate or a person like you and me, even it's just not for you, even for me, I can also become, obsolete very soon, the pace at which the world is changing. But then I think one very, very specific tip I can give you is, India being India, the way we have, we have grown up, this is a community of builders, right? So we have coded, we have software, we have a lot of software developers all around. But now it's the time, and this is a challenge everyone will have to change. It's now have to shift from a development to domain. So you need to understand the business. You need to understand the domain.
Absolutely.
Because I think the other part is more or less becoming commoditized. But a person who understands the domain, and you are good in pharma, right? Because pharma is going to be least disrupted because of the reason that there's no LLM model today still. It will happen. It will come in, but there's still not an LLM model which can actually do a complete drug development. It cannot do, right? It cannot produce a drug. So what I'm trying to say is understand your processes, understand your domain. That's going to be the power. And I believe like if India changes and if the skill set of this country changes, where we all become more fundamentally strong about the business, about the domain, the next era with this kind of workforce what we have, we may do wonders compared to even
the closer you get to the business, the better the growth is, and you start understanding there are different things that are needed. So if we do any more, we will get into lunchtime. Yeah. So I think we should pause now, because then
maybe one point. This is something which I see a problem happening everywhere. Okay, so both of them may not like, but as a industry leader, what I can tell you is, good agentic AI is coming, LLMs are there, but still we have not leveraged the power of classical AI enough. Okay, so don't use an LLM, and I see this a common crime happening. Don't use a LLM for a basic regression use case or a prediction use case where a random forest or a simple decision tree will work, right?
Don't look at AI as a hammer in search of a nail.
Yeah, I think that's also, I think don't get too fascinated by only folk, or that's wrong choice of word, but I think let's just not get blinded by LLM. There is still a lot of classical AI use cases, and they will, if you build it right, a lot of these AI cases will survive because they are much cheaper to run. There is nothing which you need from a GPU standpoint. You can run it in your own, in your infra, so on your edge. So a lot of this innovation will happen there. So please don't forget the basics of your classical AI.
I think that's the most important advice in my view, because everybody thinks large language model. Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you, guys. You've been
one question.
One last question. Okay.
I think I'll take the advantage of Shashank saying that you ask. You told you have to question, right? I am actually Major Sudha. I'm coming from a diverse background. Started my career as an engineer, and then that was the death knell for my technology-driven approach. Because I started with microprocessor, 8085. No one told me why a microprocessor at that time with 8-bit. No one told me the history of Intel 4044 with a 4-bit. So that was in death knell. I probably blame my
your own education.
No, I'm into army. Lucky me, I went into army, the best place to be. And then it took me 30 years to come out of that mind block. I joined the product leadership course. Then I launched my fashion brand. I told, let me implement that. I've started doing that now. So the thing is, this is to Shashank. The thing is, aren't we looking at the onset of AI? We should negate the exodus of workforce. Onset is because disruption of status quo. It's just not an onset entry. It's an onset, it's disrupting the status quo. It's challenging the status quo. Not at the altar of exodus of workforce. Because you are disrupting the topmost basic needs of Maslow. Because when people can't eat, they can't think. You are losing jobs left, right, and center.
We have lost jobs hundreds of years.
We have been losing, but we have stalwarts sitting on the CXO levels. We never had CXOs. We never had CSOs.
So your question is what?
I had this question, another follow through, I'll just finish it. So shouldn't we show the value proposition before going to the client? Show the value proposition to your internal stakeholders. I'm getting this the reason is I'm coming to you is to relieve your pain, to create a green creator. MVP might be an framework. To you, Shashank, you told culture is the core of transformation. Culture in an organization is always led by HR. Why can't we, generally, they do sessions and all that in our organization. Why can't product managers be the real culture champions? In this scenario, long question, you gave me the liberty, I took it a little long.
There's a short answer for that.
I don't know if culture is any one department's, I think culture is everyone. And don't forget HR is part of the same team that you and I part of, right? So I think culture is everyone's ownership. Every company you sign up with, when you sign up the contract, they ask you to operate in a particular way, and they lay out the tenets, they lay out the values that you should follow. And so I don't think culture is one person's responsibility. I think that was one question. What was the other question?
No, that was the question.
That was the question?
Yeah. So why can't product managers take charge? You should take charge.
No, not take charge.
Sure. I think if your organization is open and receptive to such kind of a thing, product managers should become the champions of new.
If you ask me, my answer is yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what it means in your company,
Right.
of course. I mean, that's for all of your companies to figure out. But my short answer is yes. Everyone should be able to own that.
Absolutely.
The thing is, we are always looking at the solution-driven approach, very important for a user, for a customer. But no, why don't we magnify the problem so much?
That is the job of product managers.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.